a world where challenges and opportunities are as vast as the ocean, Pacific Island countries are coming together to share their visions for the vibrant region. Join our special program to hear their insights on present issues and aspirations for navigating future horizons, and explore how China can fit into their pursuit of a common goal: a resilient Pacific region of peace, harmony, and prosperity.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Navigating Future Horizons, a China-Pacific Island countries dialogue. I'm Li Qiuyuan from CGTN.
I'm Dong Shi. It's a great pleasure to be joined by such a diverse audience on our special program today.
This special program is a collaborative effort between CGTN and 10 media organizations from Pacific Island countries, including TV Tonga News, Solomon Island Broadcasting Corporation, and the National Broadcasting Corporation of Papua New Guinea.
As the 53rd Pacific Island Forum Leaders Meeting commences in Tonga, regional policies and diplomatic initiatives are taking center stage. China and Pacific Island countries share a vibrant history of interactions, strong connections through our people, and shared aspirations for future development.
That's right, and today we're joined by ambassadors of Federated States of Micronesia, Fiji, and Samoa to share their perspectives on bilateral ties and issues of common concern. A warm welcome to our guests joining us today.
Thank you so much for coming. Located in the southern extension of the Belt and Road Initiative, Pacific Island countries are key development partners for China, and cooperation is already bearing fruit in the region. Among the many projects is the Tonga High School Sports Complex, which is also the main venue for the Pacific Island Forum this year. Now, please hear from the Prime Minister of Tonga.
Hawaii and China enjoy long-standing friendship. In recent years, Tonga-China relations have enjoyed smooth progress with fruitful outcomes of mutually beneficial cooperation. I appreciate the efforts by CGTN to promote the relations between the Pacific Island countries and China. I'm glad to address the event Navigating Future Horizon, a China-Pacific Island countries dialogue today. Wish the event a great success. Stay tuned to CGTN for its special coverage on cooperation and development between China and the Pacific Island countries.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Nauru resumed diplomatic relations with China this year. Both being developing nations, China and Nauru share the similar tasks of growing their economies, improving people's lives, and advancing toward modernization. Here's the message from the President of Nauru, David Arian.
Kumuhuramwan greetings. It's a pleasure to be part of this special program and discuss the bilateral relations between Nauru and China, as well as how to further promote interactions and cooperation between our two countries. In March this year, I had the honor of visiting Beijing. I deeply appreciated the hospitality of the Chinese government that was extended to us. During the visit, we had the opportunity to sign various memoranda of understanding aimed at fostering the development of Nauru. China's remarkable development achievements and transformation over the past 20 years when I first visited China has left a profound impression on me and my delegation. It also highlighted the immense potential and broad prospects for cooperation between Nauru and China. To promote interactions and cooperating between our two countries, we believe that as developing countries, we have much to learn and gain from each other's experience. Whilst our sizes differ greatly, we share the same development aspirations to make lives better for our people and to achieve the 2030 Agenda. I want to express my appreciation for President Xi Jinping's leadership and efforts, including the Global Development Initiative and the Belt and Road Initiative. These initiatives aim to expedite the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, especially at a crucial time when we must intensify our endeavors to eradicate poverty and address the pressing challenges of climate change, pollution, and biodiversity loss. The government of Nauru is committed to the One China principle, recognizing the importance of our partnership and the shared benefits. We are looking forward to deepening our ties with China through trust, cooperation, and shared aspirations for a shared future for mankind. To conclude, I would Also like to mention that media cooperation in our bilateral exchanges plays an important part in delivering clear messaging about our plans and goals while informing our people of progress. Keeping our people well informed through our media channels is not only practical but has a variety of communication formats to accommodate all levels of our communities. We appreciate CGTN's coverage of the China-Nauru ties and the China-Pacific Islands country ties. I wish this Pacific Islands Week a success in its undertaking to explore the building of an open, resilient, and prosperous Blue Pacific continent and fostering great exchanges among the Pacific Islands and China. Matawe.
Thank you so much, President Adian. Solomon Islands Prime Minister Jeremiah Maneli just visited China in July. Meeting Chinese President Xi Jinping, he highlighted significant progress achieved by his country since joining the Belt and Road Initiative. Now let's hear the message from the Prime Minister of Solomon Islands.
Thank you for this opportunity as well. As I've said earlier on a number of occasions, a lot has happened since we established diplomatic relations with China on 21st September 2019. The cooperation, the relations between our two countries have expanded into a good number of sectors, and we would like to continue on that trajectory going forward. For us, building the economy is critical, so that we create jobs and income for our people, but so as investments in the social sector in terms of education and health. These are also critical for Solomon Islands. We are, as a country, working very hard and preparing to, as we prepare to graduate out of the list of developed countries come 2027. So our ongoing cooperation and collaboration with the People's Republic of China is critical in that endeavor, so as our engagements with our other partners as well. The cooperation and collaboration between our media organizations is also growing. I would like to take the opportunity to reiterate the importance of media cooperation in our bilateral exchanges. And on that note, I would like to take the opportunity to register my appreciation for CGTN's coverage of Solomon Islands China relations, but also China-Pacific Island ties, which your network continues to cover. We continue to expand on media cooperation. And I understand also that there will be an event later this month, media event, and let me take the opportunity to wish you every success as you prepare to host this media event. Thank you so much.
Many thanks, Prime Minister. China says it stands ready to promote the synergy of development strategies with South Pacific Island nations and foster an even closer community with a shared future. Here's the message from Mr. Tianbo, the Special Envoy of Pacific Islands Affairs of the Chinese government.
Dear colleagues and friends, it's a great privilege for me to address the event, Navigating Future Horizons, a China-Pacific Island countries dialogue today. China remains firmly committed to pursuing an independent foreign policy of peace and is dedicated to promoting a human community with a shared future. China and Pacific Island countries are good friends, good partners, and good brothers. The Chinese side always view our bilateral relations from the strategic perspective and adheres to President Xi's full respects principle in developing its relations with PICs. The year 2024 is a big year for China-PIC's relations. Since January this year, presidents of Nauru and the Federated States of Micronesia, prime ministers of the Republic of Vanuatu, Solomon Islands, and the Republic of Fiji have paid state or official visits to China. roughly 60 cooperation agreements and MOUs have been signed. We will focus our attention on the implementation of the agreements and outcome reached between the two sides in the next stage. Media cooperation is an integral part of China-PIC's relations and plays an irreplaceable role in promoting mutual understanding and friendship between the peoples of both sides. We highly appreciate the interest and effort of CGTN to cover PIC's affairs and our bilateral relations over the past years. I'm happy to note that today's event has received much attention and support from PIC's leaders, ambassadors to China, and Chinese embassies in PICs. I hope this event will spark inspiring ideas on China-PIC's cooperation and turn to be a new platform for dialogue with a view to lifting our bilateral relations to a new height. I wish the event a complete success.
Thank you so much, Mr. Qianbo. The Pacific Ocean, a sea of possibilities, is sprinkled with a constellation of islands, each with its own charm. This region, like the ocean itself, is brimming with potential, yet not without its own challenges.
And as we journey through the vast Pacific where ships crisscross, people connect, and ideas blend, we witness the fusion of cultures. And when Chinese culture meets island traditions, we hear each other's stories and deepen understanding through honest and continued communication. We are incredibly honored to be joined by a distinguished panel of guests today, ambassadors from 3 Pacific Island countries, and they are His Excellency Mr. K.S. Vincent Sivas, Ambassador of the Federated States of Micronesia to China. Ambassador, welcome to our program. His Excellency Mr. Robert Lee, Ambassador of Fiji to China. Ambassador, a pleasure to meet you today. We're also joined by His Excellency Mr. Wamanuve Albert Mariner, Ambassador of Samoa to China. Ambassador, fantastic to have you joining us today.
Your Excellency, it's fabulous to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me start with Ambassador Mariner first. Now, you've been working and living in China for a couple of years now, 25 months to be exact. How do you feel about living and working here? What kind of experience has it been for you?
China is definitely one of the most unique environments I've ever worked in. I've spent some time in Europe and the Pacific, of course, in Fiji. But China was always a new kind of book for me, so I'm learning new things every day. China's development over the last 30 years is truly remarkable. I don't think any other developed country in the world today has achieved China's success in transforming its society in the last 30 years. We also live in a world where global challenges is just very, very difficult. And I think China has a key leadership role to play in addressing these challenges. For Samoa and China, next year we'll be celebrating 50 years of our diplomatic relations. So it's a mature relationship based on mutual respect and a very strong partnership. So we look forward to celebrating 50 years of our diplomatic relations next year. I note in the opening that some of our fellow leaders have visited China, and we're hoping that my Prime Minister will be able to visit Beijing before the end of this year. But China, this is just an observation. There are almost three common things that Samoa has in common with China. One is the importance of family. Family is such an important concept to Chinese society, so is Samoa. Secondly is the respect for elders. Samoa places a premium in respecting our elders in society. And that's what I've noticed here in China as well. And thirdly, the importance of food. Any activity, any event that we go to, food places a premium here in China. So is Samoa. In Samoa, any event, if the food is not good, it's not a good event.
Same here. Seems like we have more similarity than differences. Now, Ambassador Lee, coming off the heels of Ambassador Mariner's heartfelt reflection, you've been on quite the adventure lately, exploring the heart and soul of China through several cities this month. Talk to us about your trip here. What resonated with you during your time here?
As you know, our Prime Minister just completed a 10-day tour of China. And we ended the visit with a bilateral with President Xi Jinping. We visited the provinces of Yunnan, Zhejiang, Fujian, and saw some of the rural revitalization projects that have taken place in Yunnan. We went to a village deep in Yunnan, close to the Vietnam border. The trip took us 4 hours from the city of Kunming, traveling by road and by sea, by train. It was a very eye-opener for the whole delegation, particularly for our Prime Minister, who visited China some 30 years ago. And so that window, the 30-year window, gave him the opportunity to compare what he saw 30 years ago with what he's seeing today. And so we saw in Ningde, we had a presentation by the Poverty Center in Ningde on some of the initiatives that were put in place way back in the 1980s when President Xi Jinping was a local official in the province, and the poverty alleviation strategies that he put in place, and to see how some of those strategies continue to be played out in Yunnan province was a real eye-opener for us. So it was not something that just happened overnight. It's been happening for a long time.
Ambassador Sivas, coming to you now. If we're counting time spent learning or understanding China, you could be a champion of our three guests today because your connection with China dates back to 2009. So would you mind telling us how that all got started? And I'm extremely curious to find out, how has all of this time, 15 years or so, taught you about Chinese philosophies, especially development philosophies, because we know these philosophies have been guiding and shaping China's way interacting with the rest of the world, including, of course, Pacific Island countries.
You asked about development philosophy, and since 2008, my engagement with Chinese culture and society has really deepened my understanding of the multifaceted development philosophy, which is deeply rooted in history, cultural traditions, and future aspirations. This philosophy combines traditional values, modernization efforts, and strategic planning, which focuses on achieving sustainable growth and national rejuvenation through harmonious development. China's emphasis on innovation, technological advancement, and economic reforms has elevated, really, over the last decades into a global economic powerhouse. It's guided by a commitment to continuous improvement while staying true to its cultural roots. China prioritizing social welfare, environmental sustainability, and global cooperation. China's development philosophy underscores its dedication to enhancing well-being, fostering harmonious society, and contributing positively to global development. Ultimately, in my view, and my time here in China, I see that China's philosophy can serve as a guiding principle for achieving shared prosperity, sustainable development, and mutual understanding on the international stage, offering valuable insights to inspire collaboration
dialogue, and cooperation amongst our nations to address the common challenges we have that we're here to discuss and pave the way for a more inclusive and prosperous future for all. So for the past 16 years, these were just my part of the view. I am not saying I know everything. I'm still learning. I am a student still of Chinese philosophy, development philosophy. So thank you for that question.
It's fascinating to hear your perspectives on the cultural values and philosophical principles here in the Chinese culture. Thank you very much, Ambassador. You know, it's interesting, when I chat with my foreign buddies about their time here in China, they just can't stop raving about the infrastructure here and the wow factor it's bringing to the table. I think it's really the convenience that really hits home for them. And now it's not only for China. The country is sharing this magic with the world. So when we talk about the partnership between China and Pacific Island countries, infrastructure projects like roads, bridges, communication towers, and ports, they are the stars of the show. And Ambassador Li, let me come to you. It's often said that infrastructure is the skeleton of a nation, supporting everything from daily life to long-term growth. But talk to us about why is infrastructure particularly crucial for Fiji, and how does it underpin your vision for the future, from community resilience to economic vitality?
I couldn't agree more. I mean, infrastructure is, in a nutshell, the most important aspect of our development. You know, without the right infrastructure in place, you know, everything is a constraint. You know, infrastructure that connects. You know, if you look at Fiji, we're a maritime country. We're 300 islands, 300 plus islands. We have a landmass of about 18,000 square kilometers, but we have a sea area that's close to 1.3 million square kilometers, a coastline of about just over 1,000 kilometers. And so infrastructure that connects us domestically, that connects us internationally, is so fundamental to our economic aspirations. We need to look at roads, and currently we're just about to kick off a major road project in Fiji that's being funded entirely by the Chinese government. It's a 80-plus kilometer road upgrading on our second largest island, and that is going to change the livelihoods of so many villages along that stretch of road that, you know, 80 kilometers of road might not seem that big in the Chinese context. But, you know, in Fiji, 80 kilometers of road on our second largest island will make a huge difference.
I do hope our small dialogue today is a first step towards that robust conversation you mentioned of a grander scale between China and other Pacific Island countries. Something else Ambassador Mariner said really struck a note with me about our shared values on family, because despite our environmental and geographical differences, our respective cultures actually do have a lot in common. We both grew, thrived, by water, along rivers and seas, and of course, the Pacific Ocean as well. So I want to move on to talk about some of our cultural similarities. Ambassador Mariner just now talked about how much value it places on family. Family is such a big concept here in China. Ambassador Siva is coming to you now. Obviously, we're obviously looking to have the same level of harmony in China's interactions with the rest of the world. How do we find that very hard-won harmony in our interactions with countries in the Pacific?
The concept of harmony, in my view, is valued both by the Chinese people and the Pacific, our peoples and our cultures, for its emphasis on unity, cooperation, and mutual respect within families and societies. Achieving harmony in diverse cultures like ours, I would say that it would involve, one, recognizing and celebrating our differences. Two, we must foster inclusivity through effective communication. We must learn and respect our shared values, cooperate in conflict resolutions, and building trust and solidarity among individuals from our varied backgrounds. By embracing diversity, promoting understanding, and working towards a common goal, a harmonious, interconnected society can thrive on mutual respect, cooperation, and unity. So that's, in my view, my recommendations for.
That's beautifully said.
I would also like to touch upon an effort that also aligns closely with the value of harmony and common prosperity, which is China's poverty alleviation efforts. Ambassador Lee, coming to you, Prime Minister Rabuka actually visited parts of China to explore the poverty alleviation drive here. What kind of actionable insights do you think he will apply back home in Fiji? And how would it inspire new initiatives in your country?
This visit by our Prime Minister is, it's a gap of 30 years. And so he's seen the big differences from then and today. So on this trip, I think we gained a deeper insight and understanding of some of the policies and strategies that China has employed in rural revitalization projects. We saw firsthand how the policies were being implemented at the village level, at the local level. It wasn't just textbooks, it wasn't just papers, it was real. Just to see that was itself an eye-opener. I think the first aspect is the belief that we actually in the Pacific can also get out of poverty. Because the Pacific is also made up of many villages. To see the energy, to see the approach that they have taken to the everyday work, to the policies that are being put in place, how they've transformed the village into a rural tourism a model, that resonated a lot with our group. The second point was that we felt that it's the little things that you do right at the village, in the village. So the village we saw, it was an ethnic community. They shared some of the similar traits to what we have in Fiji. Their culture was, the ethnic culture was being promoted, was being protected, and the cultural products were being marketed. And so we can relate to that. China's development is not just all high-tech. It's, little bits, small pieces being put together that make up a bigger sum. And that, I think, was a major learning for us.
It's great to hear your perspectives on this issue, Ambassador. Now I would like to pivot a bit to talk about trade, another key sector of cooperation between China and Pacific Island countries. Now, these days, we're seeing more and more premium products from Pacific Island countries making their way into the Chinese market. So have a look at it. We have coconuts, tuna, and also the superfood called noni. And noni has really taken off here in China. For those of you who are not familiar with it, it's a superfood that has a history of over 2,000 years as a health booster. So from noni drews to noni tea to even skincare products, people are loving it here. And these are just some of the examples of the goods being traded between the two sides. So coming to you, Ambassador Mariner, where do you see the next frontier of trade and investment between your country and China?
Noni has been probably the most successful product that we've exported into the Chinese market. For a small country like Samoa, we've got to find our niche products that will make it into the market here. So noni has been a classic case where we have successfully brought that into the market, and we're still developing that, and hopefully we'll improve on it. As for a small country like Samoa, it's always a challenge to find the products to meet the demand here. We have a Minister of Agriculture and our Ministry of Agriculture who are quite keen to find niche markets for our products. We've just set up an export authority, and I know Chinese experts have been very, very active in our agriculture sector. So it's something that we're still exploring, but there's no doubt that China and the China market as something that will benefit small island countries like Samoa. Having said that, we've got to be realistic. Whether we meet the demand from China, that's something that we're always cautious of when we try and find spots in the Chinese market.
Thinking and hoping that when our peoples get together, it's not always about talking business. Let's also talk about pleasure as well, because Pacific Islands are such coveted tourist destinations, not just for Chinese tourists, but global tourists as well. We all know what they have to offer: beautiful lawn beaches, exciting surfing, and colorful marine life as well. Ambassador Sivas, coming to you now. For the Chinese tourists that have yet to make their way to Micronesia, what could be in store for them? What will excite them?
In comparison to my brothers here, who are from the Pacific countries, FSM is one of the very closest island country to mainland China, geographically. What we are missing are the direct routes or flight connections to make travel for all of our tourists and investors from China to connect well. We have a lot to offer in terms of its untouched, natural, still pristine beaches. It's good for our nature lovers. And we are known, as you know, Micronesia consists of 607 islands, with the 4 main islands as the island the closest to China to the west. From the west is Yap, Chuuk, Ponape, and Kosrae. Our islands, we consider ourselves the 4 corners of paradise. Because each island has its own distinct and unique language, culture, really making it 4 destinations in one. So we would like to invite our guests from China, our friends, to come and visit Micronesia and find there will be something to find. And it is my hope that through this discussion here, maybe somebody will hear out there that we are in dire need of connecting flights to help our tourists and our visitors and friends from this part of the world. So
a beautiful and sincere pitch from none other than the ambassador himself. I see some members of our audience taking notes. Ambassador, they will be there. Now, at this point, I truly have no intention of stoking up any competition between our ambassadors. Now that we're on this topic, maybe we can hear a little bit from Ambassador Lee and Ambassador Mariner as well. Fiji already is a very popular tourist destination for Chinese tourists. Ambassador Lee, what more could Fiji possibly offer?
Fiji has everything Micronesia offers, plus more. Just kidding. Now, Fiji, we have, like I said, one of the most developed tourism markets. But the key feature of Fiji is the people. The people are very welcoming, and I think most visitors that visit Fiji, especially from the Northern Hemisphere, come away very relaxed.
What about Samoa, Ambassador? What Fiji and Micronesia have to offer and more?
Yeah, Samoa has similar features of the tourism industry that my colleagues from Micronesia and Fiji has outlined. But I think for the Pacific, I think it makes sense for us to create a package whereby one would go to Fiji, one would perhaps start from the north, from Micronesia, then to Fiji, then to Samoa, and then perhaps back to China, or perhaps Australia, New Zealand, then back to China. I think it makes sense if we, I think that's where our comparative advantage is sharing the route and sharing the tourism earnings, so worth exploring.
These gentlemen, you just can't stir up trouble, each of them complementing each other's tourism resources. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much.
November and December, guys. That's your ideal winter travel destination. Can't wait to go. Hopefully we can have more direct flights from major Chinese cities to your countries. Now, when we talk about tourism industry, it can be an important pillar for economic growth, but economic development can be a double-edged sword. It enriches our lives, but it also throws up some tough challenges. Take climate change, for example. We are all in this together with a very real threat of rising sea levels and a spike in extreme weather events. Have a look. Take sea levels, for for example, the average sea levels have increased by around 4.3 millimeters in a 10-year period from 2013 to 2023. And that's an increase of over 105% increase compared to the rate from 1993 to 2003. And last year alone, we have recorded a number of 142 natural disaster events around the world, which racked up an estimated economic loss of about 280 billion US dollars. It's a hefty price tag. And when it comes to combating climate change, Pacific Island countries are on the front lines. So coming to you, Ambassador Lee, in your view, what are some of the most urgent climate-related issues that Pacific Island countries are grappling with, and how can countries in the global south can work together to make their voice better heard?
I think in general for small island states, climate change is a major issue. It's an existential risk for many of our communities. With the rising sea levels, the whole communities, the whole village can be flooded. So if you can imagine, every day the water is creeping at your door. And so, for those communities, they have to be relocated. But relocation is not as simple as it may seem. It's not just packing your bag and saying, okay, let's move to another spot up in the hills. Relocation is, for many of the communities, the village that they live in, that is the essence of their life. That's their soul is in that village, in that location. And so to ask them to leave, to pack up and leave, is a very difficult, it's a very emotional journey for them. It's their whole livelihood, it's their whole life. And so it's an existential risk for many of those communities. And we also, in terms of climate change, especially in the Pacific region, the severe weather patterns are getting more frequent, or severe weather incidents are getting more frequent, are getting more severe, and also more unpredictable. So if you can imagine, just for a moment, just imagine if in Beijing, every year you have a cyclone, and every year that cyclone will destroy half of the houses. Just imagine how the city of Beijing will react. But that's the reality that we face in many of the islands in Fiji, that with a cyclone, it takes away half the houses. And that's a reality that we have to live with. And, so we hear in the media, we hear in conferences, we need to learn how to adapt. And adaptation is important, and it's easier said on paper than to put in reality. We have to build climate-resilient agriculture, climate-resilient infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera. The only problem is all that takes money and it takes capabilities. And both of that we don't have enough of. So that's the kind of reality we live with in the Pacific. It's a major issue for us. And so that's on the adaptation front. On the mitigation front, we said, okay, we've got to get the world to cut down on the use of fossil fuels. Look at it from the perspective of the Pacific Island. We contribute very little to climate change, or to we didn't cause it, but we're facing the brunt of it. And again, that's another reality we have to live with it. And so, climate change for us in Fiji is top of the mind in everything we do, but often we feel very helpless. And as we look to the world, we say, cut down the use of fossil fuels, and sometimes you wonder, is the world listening?
Ambassador Mariner, I think everyone agrees on this is an existential threat for Pacific Island countries. That we're not lacking. I think we have that vision that we cannot leave this to our children and grandchildren tomorrow. We must get proactive today. But as Ambassador Lee mentioned, money is a problem, capabilities is a problem. Also, how do you just gather that momentum between South-South countries, and how do we mitigate the differences between North and South when it comes to technology and funding? These are the obstacles. These are holding us back in coming up with specific plans to build a climate-resilient future. Your take on what is needed and how do we move forward?
I mean, this debate between North and South is almost like, I like the comment made by your colleague here regarding that we are all in this together. So this comment that the North versus South, I mean, if we look at it, COP28 was held last year. That's 28 years of talking climate change. In a few months' time, there'll be COP29. That's the 29th year. We're still talking and debating. Because the issue and the debate is who's responsible, who pays. But it's almost like a family looking at their family home being burnt down and they're arguing who will ring the fire engine, who will run the fire and rescue emergency to come and douse the fire down. The science is clear. 2015 Paris Agreement, first time ever the world became united and agreed that we have a crisis in hand. So this is where the challenge is, because at the end of the day, Samoa and small island countries, 40 plus members of the Alliance of Small Island States, is only responsible for less than 3% of the global greenhouse gas emissions. The G20, however, is responsible for at least 80% of the current greenhouse gas emissions. And it's the G20 really should take a leadership role in finding this. Having said it, if you break it down, the two big economies, China and the US, I think China and US has a major leadership role to play to resolve this crisis. And I acknowledge and commend the leadership role played by China's former climate envoy, who had a really good relationship with John Kerry, the US's climate envoy. So despite the geopolitics, despite the tension, despite the challenges, these two managed to get the climate change debate and process moving forward. So for us small island countries, we'll continue to look at, to China for leadership, as well as members of the G20, because it's them that has to come up with the solution. And of course, it's a political process. It requires political will. It requires partnership and collaboration. And for us, Samoa and our small island countries, we will continue to work in partnership with China and all our development partners to find a way forward in this crisis that we face.
Because we're in this together, and that's for sure.
Exactly.
Now that we're on the topic of mitigating differences, I do want to bring up the topic of sports, because sports and sporting events have proved to be an effective way of at least putting our differences aside. The Pacific Games were successfully hosted last year. They were hosted successfully in part because of infrastructure cooperation with China. China gifted Solomon Islands, the host of the Pacific Games, a 10,000-seater national stadium and other sporting facilities here. Ambassador Sivas, the Paris Olympics has just concluded, where we with our own eyes witnessed a very valued respite from the focus on global conflicts. Should we still believe in the power of sports of bringing people together and putting aside our differences and moving towards, at a united front, towards the same goal and building a community of a shared future?
Thank you. Now that you've mentioned the Paris Olympic Games, I must congratulate China on their exemplary performances and outstanding achievements at the Olympic. China continues to set new benchmarks that spells excellence, and it was admired by many. For that very 2 weeks moment, we forgot that there were, as you mentioned, conflicts, and there was the time for respite for conflicts. I note you mentioned the games. I also want to congratulate and thank China for its contributions for the recent regional Pacific Games that was held. The last one was held in Solomon Islands, and as you mentioned, world-class facilities were on display. And since Micronesia participated, I also want to take that opportunity to thank China for creating or building or working together with Solomon Islands to build those facilities. Even that kind of cooperation in sports, you built it so that the rest of the Pacific came and enjoyed it. There's no denial that a major component of the sports, it promotes peace.
And Ambassador, thank you so much for sharing your perspectives and insights with us. Your input has certainly enriched this dialogue and better help us understand the dynamic and multifaceted relationships between China and Pacific Island countries. Now, as we're gathered here in the vibrant city of Beijing, through the power of technology, we're also connected to the beautiful Pacific Islands. We're joined online by a number of special guests. Please welcome Ms. Evelyn Tavita from TV3 Samoa. Thank you for joining us.
Hello.
Hi. And please welcome Mr. Mamon Boykawai from Kiribati Broadcasting and Publication Authority. Great to see you. We're also joined by Ms. Stella Mauricio Taui from Fiji TV. Welcome.
Hola, Vinaka.
And last but not least, please welcome Ms. Eliza Kukutu from the Solomon Islands Broadcasting Corporation. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, hello.
Yeah, appreciate you joining us. So as we've been hearing the discussion going on here in Beijing, I would also love to hear your perspectives on the bilateral ties between China and your countries. If you were to use one keyword to define the ties or capture the essence of the relationships between China and your country, what would it be and why? Why don't we start with Evelyn? Your thoughts on this?
Amazing. One word that would describe China and South Pacific ties would be strengthening, because China has always seen the potential through our lands, as had provided a safe space for my people to grow and get educated on different aspects. There is a Samoa China Agriculture Aid Project that was handed over to Samoa in 2010, and for the past 14 years, our agriculture industry in Samoa has improved, and the increase of crops as well as livestock has come to a very good number. The experiences my people have had due to the SCATEP has been incredible and also has benefited so many locals. SCATEP has also helped and deepen the relationship between our two countries and have mutual understanding between our cultures. Samoa and China have developed a very strong friendship and will continue to deepen for years to come.
Appreciate your ideas, Evelyn. Now, let me turn to you, Mr. Boykava. Would you like to share with us your thoughts on this?
Yes, of course. Thank you. For China and South Pacific ties, I can explain like China and China-South Pacific ties, particularly can be described for me personally as a partnership. This is because both sides are working together on various levels, like from economic development and infrastructure projects to cultural exchanges and climate change initiatives. And this relationship is built on mutual respect and shared goals that aim to foster sustaining growth and improve the well-being of the people in the region. And the partnership also highlights the commitment to collaboration and long-term friendship between China and the South Pacific nations, like including our beautiful Kiribati Island. Thank you.
And let me bring you in, Stella. Your thoughts on the ties between your country and China?
Vinaka, I believe one word is not enough to describe the ties we have with China, but a main thing I would like to highlight on is support. Infrastructure investment is one of China's main contributions in the Pacific, and investment in infrastructure such as roads, bridges, and ports are pivotal in enhancing connectivity and economic development. These roads and bridges connect the villages to the urban centers. And like our Ambassador Lee had mentioned, one latest example is China's $300 million grant to the Fijian government to facilitate projects in our second largest island called Vanuatu. And with all the other development issues, we are grateful for all the different initiatives and projects that our bigger partners have provided us with. Naka.
Thank you. And Eliza, want to jump in? What are your thoughts on this?
Yes, thank you very much. Now, if I were to describe one word describing the relations or the ties between China and South Pacific countries, it would be partnership or bilateral partnerships. So, like over the years, we see that the relations that we have with China is the same as is the same form of relations that we have with our bilateral partners, where we have seen it grow and strengthen over the years. And as mentioned by our Prime Minister earlier, Honorable Jeremiah Manele, we have also seen this relation extending to other sectors. And we would like to see that with this relation, we were able to support each other. And we also have the cooperation where we are able to achieve our development aspirations. And in return, we also can promote trade and investment in our country. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Appreciate your thoughts and insights.
It's really very refreshing to hear their angles and their perspectives. Now we've reached a much anticipated part of our dialogue today where we would like to open the floor up for your voices to be heard. Throughout the course of our discussions today, we've covered a myriad of thought-provoking topics. Now it's time to hear your thoughts, your insight, and maybe your questions on these topics. Please raise your hand if you have a comment to make or a question to ask, and my colleagues will be coming around with a microphone.
I have a question for the ambassador of Samoa, and I'm wondering if how do you view the role that the PIC countries play in the international affairs? And I'm just also wondering that how do you think the cooperation between China and PICs can help to promote the mutual discourse of the developing countries, or more precisely, the PICs? Thank you.
As we speak, all the Pacific Island country leaders are meeting in Tonga, and this is where key issues of concern to the region will be discussed, and leaders will try and find a consensus and agreement on some of these key issues. China's special envoy to the Pacific is in Tonga as well, and he will be meeting with most of the Pacific Forum leaders on a bilateral basis, and will be part of the post-forum dialogue where some of these development issues will be discussed. My role here as ambassador, and I'm sure my colleagues here will agree, is really to build on the bilateral relationship between our respective countries and China and explore areas of further partnership and collaboration. So it's almost like a two-pronged approach. At the regional level, the leaders at the moment are looking at some of the key issues of development and of challenges to the region. But us, our role as ambassadors here, we engage regularly with both MFA and other key departments in Beijing, as well as key institutions like here at Peking University and with CGTN. So it's a multi-pronged approach in terms of how we engage on the key issues affecting PICs.
Thank you.
My question is more geopolitical. With the geopolitical push and pull in the Pacific Islands, we can see that there's an imbalance there of how many Pacific Islanders view China and view the West. What are the initiatives that we can take to promote the people-to-people relations and to understand more about China? Thank you.
I think it's one of understanding. Right? The more you understand, the more you appreciate what is going on. And a lot of the biases is actually a lack of understanding. A lack of knowing, you listen from one side, but you don't fully appreciate what the whole issue is. And I think the media, the various stakeholders all have a role in this, into how your views of the world is shaped. Okay? If you only have one view, then of course that's the view that you will form. If you have multiple views, then it's up to you to filter that and to see what's relevant, what's not relevant. And so, it really comes down to both the individual and nations to engage more, to dig deeper, to find out more, to understand more. And that's incumbent upon us in the Pacific.
As I'm talking now, half of my mom's village half of it is under the sea because of king tides. So what are some ways that you guys think you could cooperate with China to navigate these challenges with our development goals? Because these are the pressing issues that we have currently. Thank you.
I think the question needs to be looked at more carefully. While I do acknowledge we all want to cooperate with China, I think it's a global effort. We all have to work together, not just China. All the big players need to work together to reverse or to give us time to, I regret to hear what's happening to your village. In Micronesia, that's the same. Our leaders, there's a saying that said, even our dead are no longer safe from climate change. Our graves are already inundated under the water. What used to be land is under the ocean. So again, I understand your question, but you know, China has done a lot. It's reaching out, asking each country, or we're trying to cooperate with China, but all the other countries must come into play also. This is why we have those COP exercises, the 29th coming up, and like Ambassador of Samoa has mentioned, we've talked about it for 28 years. Action needs to be done. So I think your question is, it's not a question. I think you want all of us leaders, representative countries to work together and do something about climate change. I hope, truly hope that we do. But I do again thank China for the efforts that it's coming out. As you know, they've opened a climate change center here at Liaocheng University. It's still fairly new. We really need to work with China to make it more accessible, practical, and to expedite what they can do to alleviate or mitigate our climate change crisis at home.
All right, we appreciate the participation of all of our audience members, and also our heartfelt thanks go to our ambassadors on stage for taking each and every one of their questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. It's enlightening to hear your questions and diverse viewpoints on the topics discussed here. I hope we could carry forward the spirit of dialogue and understanding that has been so evident here today as we continue to foster growth and common prosperity. And ladies and gentlemen, this special program is a collaborative effort between CGTN and its media efforts, Media Friends among Pacific Island countries. And Joshi, they have been covering stories of cooperation with China, haven't they, along the way?
Absolutely. From mega projects to cultural exchanges, here's a look at some of their reports. And for more on those inspiring stories, you're welcome to head over to our website, cgtn.com, or check CGTN out on your favorite social media platforms. And that concludes our special program, Navigating Future Horizons, a China-Pacific Island Countries Dialogue. Thank you so much for your company.